So there are a lot of videos that are coming, being uploaded. So just make sure you watch the one that it's corresponds to what you're doing right now. Okay. So we'll start with this one. This one is two-step equations. This is probably 702 right now. Okay, 701, 706. You haven't gotten this part yet, but you will. You can take a look. Won't hurt. So quickly now. And again, I do want you to use inverse operations, only because they will come in very handy when you're solving multi-step equations. Okay, so imagine that this splits our equation into two halves. We want this equation, we want to isolate, so A equals something. And in order for that to happen, we need to get rid of that 4 there and that 2 there. So you will always start with a constant, get rid of the 2 there. And we use inverse, so the inverse of addition is minus 2. And if I subtract 2 from this side, I will subtract 2 from this side. Plus 2 minus 2 will become 0. I'm not going to write that down, but I will bring that negative a over 4 here. Or just negative a over 4. And that equals, and 6 minus 2 is on this side, right? 6 minus 2 is 4. So now I'm going to do the inverse operation of this. So what we see here is a division. That says a divided by 4. So the opposite of division is multiplication. And I'm going to multiply this by 4. And the reason I'm multiplying that by 4, let me just show you that. So if I have a over 4 times 4 and I put this over 1, I can simplify these two, right? 4 divided by 4 is 1, 4 divided by 4 on top is 1. So if I multiply this now, a times 1 is a, 1 times 1 is 1, and I get a over 1, which is just simply a, right? So this whole thing, it's going to be crossed out, and I'm going to be left over with a. But I forgot to do something. I'm not multiplying this by 4. The number is correct, but I forgot to do something. So I'm actually multiplying this by negative 4, right? Because now the force becomes 1, and a negative times a negative, it's going to give him a positive a. On this side, I multiply by negative 4. 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. So I have my value of a, well, it's negative 16. Let's see if that's true. My equation looks like this. Plus 2, so in the place of a, I'm going to replace it with negative 16, so I get negative, so that mine is already there, so I'm going to replace the a with negative 16 over 4 plus 2. So I get 6 equals, and this 2 negatives here, right, it's going to turn this whole thing here is going to become positive, so it's going to be a positive, and 16 over 4 is 4 plus 2. 6 equals, and positive 4 plus positive 2 equals 6, and you can tell my equation is balanced. 6 equals 6, that is true, and I know my answer is correct. Okay. Get rid of this guy over here. Make it a little bigger. No, not too big. Right, so next one. Again, so you don't have to draw this line in the middle. You can. It just helps you understand that there is two sides to this equation, my left side and my right side. My variable in this case on the left side, so I want to isolate that. So at the end, somehow that's going to look like this. W equals a value. We got to get rid of the negative 6, and we got to get rid of this 4 in the denominator. So let's start with our constant, right? And this says minus 6, so the opposite of minus 6 is plus 6. And I'll do plus 6 on this side. These two will become 0. I'm left over with positive W over 4. And negative 5 plus 6 is just 1. I want to get rid of that 4, so this says W divided by 4, and the opposite of division is multiplication, so I'm going to turn this and multiply this by 4, and multiply this side by 4. These two 4 cross out, becoming 1 over 1, right, or W over 1, or just simply W, and on this side I have 1 times 4, which is 4. If I substitute, this equation should be true, so let's see if it's true. So it's negative 6 plus and W over 4, or 4 over 4, which is the value I just found, equals negative 5. Negative 6 plus and 4 over 4 is 1, equals negative 5. And negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5, so you can tell my equation is nice and balanced, so that is true. Next, this one is probably the easier type of two-step equation, right? So again, we want that to look like x equals something. So I have to get rid of this guy, and I have to get rid of this guy. And we start by getting rid of the constant, right? Not the number next to the variable, which is our coefficient. So this is -7, so the opposite of -7 is +7. So I'm going to do +7 on the other side. These two become 0, right? I'm going to bring 9x down. And -7 over +7 is also going to be 0, but that's 0. I do need to write. That says -9 times a number equals 0. So we're going to do the opposite of multiplication, which in this case is division. So if I'm going to divide that by whatever my coefficient is, which in this case is -9. So I'm going to divide that by -9. And this side divided by -9. -9 divided by -9 is +1, or 1x, or just x. And 0 divided by -9 is 0. So the value of our variable is 0. So let's see if that works. So -9 times 0 minus 7 should equal -7. Let's see if that's true. -9 times 0 is just 0. I'm not going to write it, but so I'm left over with -7 equals -7. I know my variable has the right value. So in this case, again, now for those of you who don't like the variable on your right side, see how the variables, and you like the variable on the left side, easy fix to that. And for this one, I'll switch sides. I'll put 4 plus n over 5 on the left side and equals 0 on that side. So this whole thing went that way, and this whole thing went this way. Okay. Let me erase that. Let's divide this into 2 parts. Right, so I'm going to have to get rid of that 5 and get rid of the 4 in order for this to look like n equals something. Let's get rid of the 4 first. So it's -4, and I do -4 over here, right? Because this is a +4, so +4 minus 4 is going to give me a 0. N over 5 comes down. 0 minus 4 is -4. Now I have a 5 in my denominator, and that says n divided by 5, so the opposite of division is multiplication, so I'm going to multiply this by something, and multiply this by something, and we're going to multiply by that numerator. So I get 5 times n over 5, you can put that over 1 if you so choose to. This 5 and this 5 gets simplified to 1 and 1. So I'm left over with 1 times n over 1 times 1, which is just simply 1. And on this side, -4, I'm going to multiply by 5 because I multiply this side by 5. And -4 times 5 is -20. See if that works. 4 plus n over 5. 0 equals 4 plus, and we have -20 over 5. So let's see if that's true. I got 4 plus, and -20 over 5, it's a negative divided by a positive, so it's going to give me negative something, and 20 divided by 4 is -4. So 0 and 4 plus -4 equals 0, so look at that. Our equation is true. There is absolutely no way you should get any equation problems incorrect, because you always can check. Again, this one I won't change sides. Okay, you can choose to, but you should be able to work on both sides. I want r to equals a value here, so I have to get rid of that 5 and the 20 under it, right? So let's start with -5. So the opposite, the inverse operation is +5. So I do +5 on this side. These two become 0. Bring down r over 20 down. Equals -4 plus 5 is +1. Right, so now I have a number divided by 20 equals 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that 20 by doing the inverse of division, which is multiplication. I'm going to multiply that by 20, and therefore I have to multiply this side by 20. These two cross out, becoming 1. 1, r times 1 is 1, so I'm going to put a 1 over here. R times 1 is r, and over 1, or just simply r, and 20 times 1 on this side is just 20. Let's see if that's true. I have r over 20 minus 5, I believe. So -4 equals, and the value of r is 20 over 20 minus 5. -4 is 20 over 20 is +1. 20 over 20 is just 1. -5. -4, and 1 minus 5. 1 minus 5 is -4. So I know again our work is correct. Moving on. So we got -1 equals 5 What am I doing? Let's draw a line that divides our sides into 2. I want to get rid of this 5, and I want to get rid of that 6 that's at the bottom, right? So let's start with our 5. That 5 is a plus 5, a positive 5. So plus 5, opposite is minus 5. On this side, I do minus 5 as well. Plus 5 and minus 5 becomes 0. And remember, or be careful what you bring down. You bring down y over 6, but you got to bring down the minus sign. Negative 1 and negative 5. Minus 1 and minus 5 gives you negative 6. I have to multiply both sides by something. And again, I'm going to multiply this by negative 6. Because if I multiply by negative 6, a negative times a negative is going to be a positive root, which is what I want. These two will cross out, right? And I'm left with y. Negative times negative is positive, and just y is what remains. Over here, I multiply by negative 6 as well. Positive times positive, negative times a negative is a positive, and 6 times 6 is 36. So the value of my variable is 36. Let's see if that works. 5 minus y over 6, negative 1 equals 5 minus 36 over 6. Negative 1 equals 5 minus 36 over 6 is 6. Negative 1 equals 5 minus 6 is negative 1. And our equation is nice and correct. Draw my line. I want to get rid of this 3. I want to get rid of this minus 9. Let's start with the minus 9. I do plus 9. I'll do plus 9 on this side. Minus 9 plus 9 becomes 0. V over 3 comes down, and 8 plus 9 is 17. I have V divided by 3 equals 17, so the opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by something, and this something is going to be whatever my denominator is, but the reciprocal, right? The reciprocal is 3. I multiply it by 3, I can put it over 1. These two divided by 3 divided by 3 becomes 1 and 1. So all this means that it's just V, and 17 times 3 is 51. Let's check. Minus 9 equals 8. V, I'm going to substitute, replace that with 51 over 3 minus 9 equals 8. 51 divided by 3 is 17. 17 minus 9 equals 8. And is 17 minus 9 8? Yes, it is. So my left side matches my right side. Now for this one, you have a little thing to do. Remember why we do the distributive property, to get rid of the parentheses, right? So let's apply it. 2 times n is 2n. Positive times a positive is going to be positive, and 2 times 5 is 10, equals 2. Now, you will solve this. It's a nice, what do you call, two-step equation. It's a very simple two-step equation. Plus 10 is minus 10. This is minus 10 as well. These two become 0, right? Bring the 2n down. 2 minus 10 is negative 8. This says 2 times a number, and the opposite of multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide this by 2 and divide this side by 2 as well. Though these two go away, becoming 1 over 1, or just n. A negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 8 divided by 2 is 4, so my answer is negative 4. Let's see if that's true. I got n plus 5 equals 2. 2 times, and our n is negative 4 plus 5 equals 2. So over here, I mean, I'm not going to do the distributive property. I'm just going to do order of operations. So 2 in parentheses, negative 4 plus 5 is negative 1. That's not going to work. Oh, it's positive 1, sorry. Equals 2. And 2 times 1 is 2, which equals 2 on that side. Where am I? Negative 9 plus 1. Okay, again. So again, it's very repetitive, but again, as long as you get used to the process here, where we have to isolate our variable, right? And get rid of this guy and get rid of that guy. And we always start with our constant, so we're going to do minus 1 on this side. These two become 0. I have negative 9m left over. 80 minus 1 is 79. Now I have negative 9 times m, so it's multiplication. So the opposite multiplication is division, which is represented by the fraction bar here. And I'm going to divide both sides by negative 9. Okay. Yuck. So negative divided by negative is a positive, and this becomes just 1 over 1, or just m. And this one becomes 79 over negative 9, which I'm going to leave as a improper fraction. Okay, there's no point changing to mixed number because I have to change it to an improper fraction back again, and you'll see what I mean by that. So let's copy the equation. Negative 9m plus 1 equals negative 80. So it's negative 9, and let me replace times m, which in this case is 79 over negative 9 plus 1, and that should give me negative 80. Well, let's see if that's true. Multiplication here, you can put this over 1 if you like. I know that this and this will become 1 and 1. So it's a negative and a negative, so my answer is going to be positive, and that all that becomes just 79. Plus 1 equals 80. Why is it negative 80? What, did I do something wrong here? Oh boy. I did something wrong. Negative 9, negative 80. Oh, okay, here's my mistake. All right, so all of this is wrong, and this is why we check. So this is wrong, up to here is wrong. So that's negative 80 minus 1. Negative 8, and I'll put this on this side, and that's my fault. Or negative 80 plus negative 1, which gives you negative 81. So this should have been negative 81. This was negative 9m, right? That was correct. And I'm still going to divide that by 9m, or sorry, negative 9. Divide this by negative 9. Negative divided by negative is a positive, or just m. And in this case, negative 81 divided by negative 9 is positive 9. So let's check now. Negative 9m plus 1 and negative 80. Negative 9 times 9 plus 1 equals negative 80. Negative 9 times 9 is negative 80. 81, sorry. I don't know my multiplication. Negative 81 plus 1 equals negative 80. Negative 81 plus 1 is negative 80, which equals negative 80. So I know this is correct. Line in the middle. My left side was my right side. Need to get rid of that 10, the minus 10, and this my negative the denominator here. So let's start with our variable, our constant. So let's do plus 10. And on this side I do plus 10. These two will become 0. What drops from up there is, this is what drops. Negative 6 plus 10 is positive 4. So that's one step. My second step here is, let's see what kind of equation this is. We're dividing, right? It's n divided by 2. So I'm going to multiply that, because the opposite of division is multiplication. And I'm going to multiply that by 2, but not only 2, but negative 2, because I want this to be positive. And I multiply this side by negative 2. Negative times a negative, it's going to be positive, so my answer I know is going to be positive. So cross this out, and I am left with positive n. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8, so that's my value. Let's go back here, and let's see how this works. And n over 2 minus 10, let's see if that really equals negative 6. Let me substitute, so it's going to be, that minus was already there, I'm replacing the n, so it's going to be negative 8 over 2 minus 10. So these two negatives are going to make a positive, right? Negative and negative. So my answer here is going to be a positive. And 8 divided by 2 is 4 minus 10. And 4 minus 10 is the same thing as 4 plus negative 10. They're more negatives, so this becomes negative 6. And my equation is correct. Okay, another line. Let's get rid of the 8. Let's get rid of negative 4. Okay, so this is a positive 8, right? So the opposite of a plus 8 is minus 8. Becomes 0. Minus 8 on this side. 5 minus 8 is negative 3. And I bring down b over negative 4. So I need to get, so I want this to be like this, right? So I need to get rid of the negative 4. And it's a division, so I'm going to multiply both sides, right, by something. And the reciprocal here would be negative 4. And the reason I multiply by negative 4, because I want these two negatives to give me a positive b. That becomes 1, that becomes 1. And I'm left with b. On this side, it's -4. Negative times a negative is a positive, and my value of my b is 12. Let's see if that works. So that's supposed to be an 8 plus b over -4 equals 5. 8 plus 12 over -4 equals 5. 8 plus, and 12 divided by -4 gives me -3. Let me put that in parentheses, equals 5. So I have 8 plus -3. There are more positives, right? How many more? 5 more on the positive side. And you can tell it equals 5 on the other side. Last problem for this. We need to apply the distributive property first. Negative times a positive is a negative. 9 times 10 is 90. Negative times a positive, again, is going to be a negative, and 9 times y is just 9y. Let me draw a line. We have to get rid of that 90 and that minus 9 there, so let's get rid of the 90 first. Inverse of minus 90 is plus 90, and I'll do plus 90 on this side. These two become 0, and I have minus 9y on this side, and this is going to be 3. 14 minus 9 is 5, negative 153, right? Because if I have negative 43 plus 90, there's definitely more negatives. How many more negatives? 153 more negatives. Now, the operation here is multiplication, so the opposite multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide this side by something and this side by something, and I'm going to divide this side by the coefficient, which is -9. So I'm going to divide this by -9 and -9 over here. -9 divided by -9 is +1, right? So this becomes 1, right? And then over here, negative divided by negative is a positive, and 153 divided by 9, I have no idea. 1 time 9, what's 15 minus 9? 60, see 3, 17. So y equals 17. Substitute equals -9, 10 plus y, -243, -9, 10 plus 17, -243 equals, and then I can do order of operations here. -9 times 10 plus 17 is 27. -23 equals, a negative times a positive is going to be a negative, and 9 times 27, is it 243? No idea. 9 times 7 is 63, carry 6. 9 times 2 is 18, plus 6, 243. Yep, 243. So that's your little video on two-step equations. Okay, so that should definitely refresh your minds from last year. Okay.